Time has finally come. After 36 years of waiting, the Dutch Grand Prix is back on the F1 calendar. This weekend, 20 F1 cars will race over Zandvoort. Will Max Verstappen cause an earthquake in the dunes for the victory, or will Lewis Hamilton succeed his good friend Niki Lauda as the last winner of the Dutch Grand Prix? In 1985, Bernie Ecclestone was clear about the Zandvoort car circuit. Formula 1 cars stopped visiting the circuit. The circuit was too small, the paddock was too small, and the road to Zandvoort always caused problems. Besides that, the Netherlands hardly had any money to compete with the bigger countries. The Netherlands disappeared from the calendar. For years, the Dutch Grand Prix was also not an option, all because of these problems, until Prince Bernhard bought the circuit in 2016, the son of Peter van Wolfsen, who wanted to make something illustrious of it. With Max Verstappen at the top of F1 at Red Bull, an ambitious project began at Zandvoort. In November 2018, it became clear that F1 and Zandvoort were actually talking to each other. Charlie Whiting had visited the circuit and saw possibilities. In March 2019, a provisional deal was reached, provided that adjustments would be made to the circuit. Zandvoort got the funding for that on May 14, 2019. The return of the Dutch GP was confirmed. With €4 million that the circuit got to spend, a lot of changes have been made to the circuit. The Hudrout and the Aerialschwit were banking. They were turned into corners. Also, the paddock and the pit lane were updated, and of course the safety had to be improved. In essence, the character of Zandvoort has remained the same, but modern F1 cars should be able to race there. It's a circuit for drivers with guts. A fast lap on Saturday will be very important for Sunday. The plans for a Dutch Grand Prix already started before the Second World War in 1939. The first street race was organised on the 3rd of June, but the Royal spoiled plans and the construction of permanent circuit had to wait. The first version of the Zandvoort circuit opened in 1948. In the dunes of Zandvoort, the circuit was, despite a few corners, immediately a challenge for drivers who, with well-known corners, the Netherlands could distinguish itself. The first race was organised in 1948 until 1951. The Dutch GP was an unofficial race, however it was added to the calendar for the first time in 1952. The first race of the Zandvoort circuit was won by Prince Bira of Thailand, where the first official GP was won by Alberto Ascari. He would win for the first two Dutch editions. In 1954, 56, 57, the Dutch Grand Prix was not held, which it was on the F1 calendar every year, however, from 1958 to 1985, with the exception of 72. There were years where very few small winning names would win. Jim Clark has won 4 times and holds the record, with Jackie Stewart and Niki Lauda behind him. The Austrian was the last person to win a race in the Netherlands. Ascari, Jack Rowan, James Hunt and Alain Prost also won this Grand Prix twice. Ferrari have won most of the team, stepping onto the podium 9 times. Since the last Dutch GP, a lot have changed in F1. Bernie Ecclestone is no longer at the helm of the sport, and there is a 22 race calendar instead of a 16 race calendar. Verstappen is fighting for the world title with Hamilton in 2021, and that might just cause some fireworks in Zandvoort. Verstappen will be supported in his fight with Hamilton at Zandvoort, while Hamilton will be opposed. Roles reversed from Silverstone. The most important thing, however, is that F1 cars are back on track. After the fiasco at the Belgian Grand Prix, people are anxiously looking at the weather. According to weather.com, it is going to rain on Sunday in Zandvoort. Where it rained all weekend in Belgium does not seem to be the case in the Netherlands. For Sunday, a 39% chance of rain is indicated, but for the rest of the weekend, it's below 20%. The weekend will also be a lot warmer than the Belgian Grand Prix, with the temperature didn't rise above 20 degrees. It will be 20 degrees Celsius on Friday, and then, despite the rain, it should be 23 degrees on Sunday. The chances of a similar scenario at Spa therefore seem small. Normally it's difficult to make a prediction for the Grand Prix, but with a circuit as good as new, it is even more of a gamble to decide who will come up on top. Normally you put your money on Red Bull to be on top on a tight, twisty track. However, in Hungary it was Mercedes that beat the clock in qualifying. We never saw Red Bull's race pace. Red Bull should normally win on such a track, which makes Verstappen favourite, but with what we saw at the Hungarian GP, you just never know. In the UK, times for practice 1 and practice 2 are 10:30 to 11:30 and 2 till 3. Saturday, third practice 11 till midday and quali 2 till 3, and the race starts at 2 o'clock UK time. On Thursday, the main stories in the paddock were obviously about driver lineups. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton kind of seem to confirm that Russell will be in the car next year. No real surprise, to be honest, with Bottas securing a multi-year deal away somewhere like Alfa Romeo by the sounds of it. And then of course you've got rumours about the likes of Nick de Vries and Alex Albon in F1 next year, so it'll be interesting to see where that goes. We have Verstappen and Rosberg, people like that, teaming in saying it would be tough for Hamilton against Russell, but let's just see where it goes. Moving on to the practice sessions. In practice 1, it was Lewis Hamilton who was fastest. It was heavily disrupted though for about 40 minutes. The red flag was out while Sebastian Vettel's car was there. Supposedly they were told there was something wrong with the engine, dangerous. However, it wasn't actually dangerous. It was kind of a mistake by the marshals, and teams lost a lot of running. They did go out at the end for 1 or 2 quick laps. Hamilton was fastest, but yeah, there was so much traffic you really couldn't tell who was doing what, to be honest. And in practice too, it was kind of a similar story for another Mercedes car, Lewis Hamilton, stopping. It seemed like a sensor issue, so hopefully nothing too serious, something like that. It's his first power unit as well, but he stopped, and yeah, couldn't get any running in. But for the rest of the session, the Ferraris were fastest. Yeah, they looked really strong. The car that planted, and then in race mode, you would say the Red Bull was probably slightly ahead of the Mercedes. But yeah, it looks like we've got an interesting weekend. Before I go, my predictions for the Dutch Grand Prix, I'm actually going to pick a Mercedes to be on top this weekend. It's going to be controversial. I can only imagine the reaction Lewis will get if he does win, but I do think he will get the pole and the win. I just think Mercedes will have the control here with the Hungarian Grand Prix. However, I do think it will be in close, with Verstappen coming in second, and in third place, I just think in dry conditions, Bottas has a slight edge over Perez at the moment. I'm not sure it'll be a McLaren track, maybe a Ferrari track, but in all honesty, I do think it will be Bottas that comes third. But anyway guys, that's the end of the video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, leave me your thoughts, comments down below, and follow me on Twitter, link in the description below for daily F1 news, and subscribe to my channel that's going on now. I greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.